the alien king gifted his Meek daughter a human, and she turned into a mighty fighter. Its cities floated above vast oceans of glittering liquid, and towering crystal mountains reflected the sunlight in dazzling rainbows. The inhabitants of Zarinth were unlike any other species in the universe. Tall, graceful beings with skin that shimmered in pastel hues moved elegantly through the city, communicating not only with words but with subtle changes in color and light. At the center of the capital, in the grand palace of luminous marble and floating staircases, lived the king of Zarinth. King Vorin was wise and just, ruling his people with fairness and vision. Yet despite his power and wisdom, there was one matter that troubled him deeply: his daughter, Princess Leora. Leora was gentle and kind, with large, thoughtful eyes and a heart that cared for everything and everyone around her. She had a natural grace, yet she lacked confidence. The court often overlooked her, and even the most minor decisions made her nervous. Though she wanted to be brave, she felt trapped inside herself, afraid of making mistakes or disappointing others. King Vorin watched her struggle with a quiet concern. She has the potential to be a great leader, he often thought, but she needs guidance beyond what we can teach here. It was on a day when Zarinth's twin sons painted the sky in hues of gold and pink that King Vorin called Leora to the palace courtyard. Birds with wings of light circled above, and the air hummed softly with energy from the crystals embedded in the palace walls. "Leora," the king began, his voice gentle but firm, "I have something for you, something different." Leora looked at him with curiosity. She always felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety when her father spoke this way. "A gift?" she asked softly. "Yes," he said, gesturing to a glowing chamber nearby. "It is someone from another world, a human. I believe that through him you will discover strength you do not yet know you have." Leora's eyes widened. She had heard of humans, creatures from a distant planet called Earth. Humans were said to be fragile, yet clever and bold, capable of doing incredible things even without the advantages Zarinthians possessed. Yet she had never imagined one would come to her personally. The chamber opened with a soft hiss, revealing a tall figure with dark hair and curious eyes. He stood calmly, though he seemed alert to the surroundings of this alien world. His clothing was simple, practical, unlike the flowing robes and shimmering fabrics of Zarinthians. "This is Kale," King Vorin said, gesturing toward the human. "He will be your companion and guide. Watch him, learn from him, and above all, let him help you discover your own courage." Leora stepped forward tentatively. "Hello," she said, her voice almost a whisper. Kale smiled gently. "Hello, Princess. It's an honor to meet you." There was a moment of silence filled only by the soft hum of the Crystal Palace. Leora studied Kale. He seemed calm, confident, and strangely friendly. There was something about him that felt different from anyone she had met on Zarinth. Not intimidating, not commanding, but quietly assured, as though he had faced challenges before and learned from them. I don't know what to do," Leora admitted. "I've never done anything like this before." "That's okay," Kale said. "No one starts out knowing everything. We learn by trying, step by step." The princess hesitated, but her father nodded encouragingly. "Do not be afraid, my daughter. Trust yourself and trust him." And so, Leora's journey began. In the following days, Kale introduced Leora to simple exercises to build her confidence. At first, these were small things: walking without hesitation across the floating terraces, speaking in public to a small group of attendants, even handling delicate crystals that responded to mental focus. Leora often stumbled, her nerves overwhelming her, yet Kale never scolded her. Instead, he offered guidance with patience, praising every small success. "You see," he said one afternoon as they practiced walking along a narrow terrace, "every time you step forward, you learn a little more about yourself. Courage isn't about never feeling fear, it's about moving forward despite it." Leora listened, her heart warming. She could feel the truth in his words. Even as her legs trembled, she tried again and again. With each attempt, she grew steadier, and her confidence increased. Beyond the palace, the world of Zarinth itself became their classroom. Kale showed her how to navigate the floating cities, how to read the energy currents in the air, and how to anticipate natural shifts in the terrain. Leora began to notice things she had never paid attention to. The subtle way the light bent across the city, how the birds seemed to communicate through motion, and the quiet hum of energy that flowed beneath her feet. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a deep violet, Leora and Kale stood atop a crystal peak overlooking the city. The air was filled with a gentle warmth, and the lights of the city below twinkled like stars fallen to the ground. "You've changed already," Kale said, watching her with a smile. "You're starting to see what you're capable of." Leora laughed softly. "It still feels strange, I'm still me, but I think I'm starting to understand what you mean, that maybe I can do more than I thought." "You can," Kale said firmly, "and you will. It's not about being strong from the start. It's about growing stronger every day." As days turned into weeks, Leora began to embrace her training more fully. She learned not only to move with precision but also to think strategically. Kale would present her with scenarios, small challenges that required planning, observation, and quick thinking. At first, she hesitated, unsure of her choices, but gradually she began to trust her instincts. She discovered a spark of creativity within herself, finding solutions that surprised even Kale. One day, as they explored a hidden valley surrounded by towering crystal cliffs, they encountered a strange phenomenon, a swirling pool of energy, glowing softly with colors unseen in the normal spectrum. Kale studied it carefully, observing its patterns and movements. "Interesting," he murmured. "This is a natural energy portal, unstable but manageable. If we can understand it, we might be able to harness it safely." Leora stepped closer, her curiosity piqued. "What should we do?" "Watch," Kale said. "Notice how it reacts to your presence. Think before you act." The princess studied the portal carefully. She felt a thrill of excitement mixed with nervousness. Her heart beat fast, but instead of stepping back, she leaned forward, observing the patterns, noticing how the energy pulsed in rhythm with the wind and light. "That's it," Kale said with a grin. "You're learning to see the world in a new way. That awareness, that's your strength." In that moment, Leora realized something profound. The strength she sought was not just in physical skill or bravery. It was in observation, understanding, and the ability to act with thoughtfulness. She began to see herself not as meek or fragile but as someone capable of growth, someone who could face challenges without fear. As the sun set and the sky turned to a tapestry of stars, Leora felt a sense of wonder she had never known. She turned to Kale. "Thank you," she said softly. Kale smiled, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "You don't need to thank me. You're the one learning, the one growing. I'm just here to guide you." And so, in the soft glow of the Zarinthian night, the bond between human and princess strengthened. Kale had come as a gift, but Leora realized that the true gift was within her all along, the courage to face the unknown, to learn, to grow, and to discover her own power. This was only the beginning. The world beyond the palace awaited, full of challenges, mysteries, and adventures. And for the first time, Leora felt ready. She was ready to step forward, to explore, and to embrace the strength that had always been quietly waiting inside her. The mornings on Zarinth were always filled with wonder. Mist rolled gently over the floating terraces, catching the soft glow of the twin suns. Birds with translucent wings swooped through the air, their songs creating a gentle melody that echoed across the crystal mountains. Leora woke each day with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Her father's gift, the human Kale, had changed everything. The day began with Kale's gentle voice at her side. "Today, we take a walk beyond the palace walls," he said. His dark eyes sparkled with quiet energy, and his calm presence made Leora feel steadier than she had in years. "Beyond the walls," she asked. "Is it safe?" Kale smiled reassuringly. "Safe enough, but safe doesn't mean easy. That's where the learning happens." Leora took a deep breath. The palace walls had always been a place of comfort, a place where mistakes felt smaller. But Kale was encouraging her to step outside, to face a world that was unpredictable and vibrant. She nodded, letting curiosity overcome her anxiety. They moved through the gardens first, where flowers glowed softly in colors Leora had never seen before. Their petals hummed faintly, responding to the presence of living beings. Kale stopped at a particular cluster of flowers. "Notice how they bend toward us," he said. "They're sensitive. Every action you take has an effect, even if it seems small." That's something humans notice well, the power of influence. Leora reached out slowly, touching a glowing petal. She felt a gentle vibration under her fingers and smiled. "I never thought of it that way. Everything matters." Kale nodded. "Exactly. Courage isn't just about fighting. It's about noticing what's important and acting wisely." After the gardens, Kale led her to the lower terraces, where the city's floating platforms stretched over sparkling waters. Here, she was challenged in ways that felt unfamiliar. The platform swayed slightly with the energy currents, and stepping from one to another required careful balance. Leora's heart raced. Her legs shook as she looked down at the glimmering waters far below. "I can't do it," she whispered. "You can," Kale said firmly but kindly. "Take it one step at a time. Focus, don't rush, and trust yourself." Her first step was hesitant. The platform wobbled under her weight and she felt a flash of panic. But Kale stayed close, guiding her hand with steady patience. Step by step, she moved forward, her confidence growing with each small success. By the time they reached the center of the terrace, she was smiling, her earlier fear replaced with a sense of achievement. "I did it," she said, a quiet amazement in her voice. "You did," Kale said, "and that's just the beginning. Courage grows with practice. Each time you succeed, you strengthen it." Over the next few days, Kale introduced her to mental exercises as well. They spent hours observing the city from the highest crystal peaks, learning to notice subtle patterns in the movement of air, light, and even the city's inhabitants. Leora discovered that her mind, which had often been filled with doubt, could focus, plan, and anticipate. She began to think like a strategist, predicting outcomes and preparing for challenges she had never imagined. One afternoon, Kale brought Leora to a hidden grove at the edge of the floating city. The grove was filled with tall, crystalline trees that shimmered in soft blues and purples. At its center was a reflective pool, its surface perfectly still. "This," Kale said, "is a place to test your instincts. Watch the pool carefully." Leora stared at her reflection, the water smooth and calm. "What am I supposed to see?" she asked. Kale smiled. "Not what's on the surface, but what's beneath it. The pool shows energy patterns that are invisible to the eye at first glance. Learning to notice these patterns is like learning to see opportunities in life. It takes patience, attention, and courage." Leora focused, slowly noticing ripples in the water that moved differently from the rest. She leaned closer, her eyes widening as she saw shapes forming patterns that seemed to mirror her own movements. "I think I understand," she said. "It's like the world is alive and I need to pay attention." "Exactly," Kale said. "And paying attention is the first step to acting wisely." The lessons were not always easy. Leora stumbled, made mistakes, and sometimes felt frustrated. Yet Kale's guidance was never harsh. He encouraged her to try again, to learn from each misstep, and to celebrate each small success. Leora began to understand that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. One day they came across a narrow bridge connecting two crystal cliffs. Below, the valley stretched endlessly, filled with swirling mist and glowing energy currents. Leora froze at the sight. I can't," she whispered. Kale stepped closer. You can. Trust your feet, trust your balance, and trust your mind. Take it slow. She hesitated, heart pounding, but Kale's calm presence gave her strength. Step by step, she crossed the bridge, feeling the wind against her face and the thrill of achievement with each movement. When she reached the other side, she felt a surge of pride. I never thought I could do something like that, she said. You can, Kale said. You just needed the chance to try. Beyond physical lessons, Kale also taught her the value of teamwork. They explored the forests surrounding the city, encountering small creatures that reacted to their presence. Some were shy, while others were curious or playful. Kale explained how humans often work together, using cooperation and understanding to overcome challenges. Strength alone isn't always enough, he said one day as they guided a group of creatures safely back to their habitat. Collaboration, empathy, and creativity, these are human strengths that can help anyone, even those with great physical abilities. Leora realized that she was beginning to change. She was not only learning to move and think differently but also to feel differently, more confident, more aware, and more connected to the world around her. She began to see herself as capable, not fragile. Her growth did not go unnoticed. Palace attendants and teachers who had once overlooked her began to see a change in the young princess. She walked with steadier steps, spoke with more confidence, and smiled with a quiet assurance that drew others toward her. One evening, as the twin suns set and painted the sky in shades of crimson and gold, Leora and Kale sat atop a crystal cliff overlooking the city. The gentle hum of energy filled the air, mingling with the distant songs of birds and the soft chatter of the city below. You've come a long way, Kale said, his voice gentle but filled with pride. You're starting to see that courage isn't something you find outside yourself. It's inside, waiting for you to use it. Leora looked out over the city, her heart filled with warmth. I think I'm beginning to understand, she said. It's not about being strong all the time. It's about trying, learning, and believing in myself. Kale nodded. Exactly. And the more you practice, the stronger it will grow. You'll face challenges ahead that will test everything you've learned, but I know you'll rise to them. For the first time, Leora felt a deep sense of excitement. The world beyond the palace walls was no longer intimidating. It was full of possibilities, lessons, and adventures waiting to be discovered. She felt a connection to Kale, not just as a guide, but as a friend who believed in her when she struggled to believe in herself. Thank you, she said softly, turning to him. Kale smiled. You don't need to thank me. You've done this yourself. I just showed you the path. As night fell, the stars appeared in the sky, twinkling like scattered jewels. Leora lay back on the crystal cliff, staring upward, feeling a sense of wonder she had never experienced before. The lessons she had learned over the past weeks had begun to change her, not just in skill, but in spirit. She was learning courage, resilience, and the quiet power of thoughtfulness. She was beginning to understand that even someone who had once felt meek and uncertain could grow into a person capable of great strength. And with Kale by her side, she knew that the journey was only beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and challenges, but Leora felt ready to face it. The timid princess was slowly transforming into someone far stronger than she had ever imagined, a person who could rise to meet the future with wisdom, courage, and determination. And somewhere deep inside, Leora sensed that one day, her abilities would be tested in ways she could not yet imagine. But for now, she allowed herself to simply learn, to explore, and to grow. With Kale's guidance, she was becoming more than she had ever been, stepping forward into the unknown with courage in her heart and hope in her eyes. The mornings on Zarinth were bright and full of energy, but today something felt different. The twin suns rose as usual, casting golden light across the floating terraces, but an unusual ripple of energy ran through the air. The city's crystal towers seemed to shimmer more intensely, and even the birds' songs had a slightly uneasy tone. Leora felt it first as a tingling in her fingertips, a sensation she had learned to recognize during her lessons with Kale. "Kale," she said quietly, "do you feel that? Something is different today." Kale looked around, his expression focused. "Yes. The energy currents are fluctuating more than normal. Something is happening beyond the city. We should investigate, but carefully." Leora nodded. Her heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. These were the moments she had been preparing for, opportunities to put her growing skills to the test. She adjusted her stance, remembering Kale's lessons about focus and observation. They moved quickly but silently through the floating platforms, heading toward the outskirts of the city, where the crystal cliffs met the dense forests below. The air shimmered with energy, and Leora noticed patterns forming in the light, swirls and arcs that seemed almost like messages waiting to be read. She remembered Kale's words, "Pay attention to the patterns. Courage grows when you understand them." As they approached the forest edge, the source of the disturbance became clear. A portal of swirling energy had opened in a secluded valley. Its colors shifted rapidly, blues melting into greens, purples blending with golds, and strange shapes moved within the vortex. The creatures inside were unlike anything Leora had ever seen. They were intelligent, agile, and curious, with translucent skin that glowed faintly in rhythm with the portal's light. "Those are the shadowlings," Kale explained softly. "They are not dangerous by nature, but they are unpredictable. They respond to energy patterns and movement. If we are careful, we can study them without causing harm. But if we act recklessly, it could become chaotic." Leora's heart raced. She had trained for challenges, but this felt different. These creatures were alive, aware, and potentially powerful. She felt a flicker of fear, but it was accompanied by a surge of determination. She had come this far, and she would not step back now. Kale led the way, demonstrating careful movements as they approached the portal. Leora mirrored his actions, stepping lightly and observing the ripples in the energy around them. She noticed how the shadowlings reacted, sometimes approaching curiously, sometimes retreating. "Good," Kale whispered. "You're reading their energy well. Keep your focus and remember that every action matters." Suddenly, one of the creatures darted toward them, moving faster than expected. Leora froze for a moment, but Kale's calm voice guided her. "Step aside, adjust your stance, and breathe. You've got this." Taking a deep breath, Leora moved quickly but carefully, positioning herself to redirect the creature gently away from danger. Her pulse quickened, but she followed her instincts, using the balance and observation skills Kale had taught her. The shadowling hesitated, then shifted direction, avoiding them both. "Excellent," Kale said softly, nodding with approval. "You reacted without panic. That's what I've been teaching you: control your fear and act wisely." The portal continued to swirl, and more shadowlings emerged. Leora realized that she needed to think strategically. She could not simply react to each movement. She had to anticipate patterns and plan her actions. She studied the creatures carefully, noticing subtle changes in their behavior, slight shifts in their glowing skin, the rhythm of their movements, and the way the energy around them pulsed in response to their presence. "I think I see a pattern," Leora said, her voice steady. "They respond to energy changes like they're learning from us." "Exactly," Kale said, impressed. "Now use that knowledge. Lead them away from the portal gradually, guiding them without forcing them." Leora focused, moving with purpose. She guided the shadowlings in slow, careful circles, observing how they followed her movements. Step by step, she led them toward a safer area in the forest, ensuring that the portal remained stable. Each movement required concentration, balance, and quick thinking. Her heart raced, but she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. "You're doing it," Kale said. "You're thinking ahead, not just reacting. That's what makes a strong mind and a courageous heart." The shadowlings finally settled in a safe clearing, and the portal's energy began to stabilize. Leora stepped back, breathing heavily but smiling. "We did it," she said, astonished at her own confidence. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. We did it together. But you led the way. You saw the patterns and acted with intelligence. That's courage. For the first time, Leora felt truly proud of herself. She realized that her strength was not just in physical ability, but in her mind, her awareness, and her willingness to act despite fear. She had faced a real challenge and had succeeded. As they returned to the palace, the lessons of the day continued to resonate within her. She reflected on Kale's guidance and her own growth. Each step, each careful observation, had brought her closer to understanding her potential. She had moved from timid hesitation to thoughtful action, and the experience left her feeling more alive than ever. Over the next few days, Leora and Kale continued their training, but now with a new focus. They practiced strategy and teamwork, learning to anticipate challenges and to cooperate with others. Leora began to understand that courage was not just an individual quality, it was also about inspiring and guiding those around her. One morning, Kale led her to a small arena nestled within the forest. The arena was designed for practice, filled with moving platforms, energy currents, and interactive simulations. Today, Kale said, we focus on strategy and adaptability. You'll face scenarios that require quick thinking, balance, and decision-making. Remember, it's not about force, it's about intelligence and courage. Leora nodded, excitement mixing with nervousness. She had faced challenges before, but this felt like a step into something greater. Kale demonstrated the first scenario, showing her how to navigate moving platforms while avoiding energy pulses. Leora followed, applying everything she had learned. At first, she stumbled, but she adjusted quickly, anticipating movements and thinking ahead. Step by step, she mastered the exercises, her confidence growing with each success. Kale watched with pride as Leora began to combine agility, strategy, and awareness, moving with a fluidity and intelligence that surprised even him. You've improved so much, Kale said. But the most important thing is your mindset. You're learning to see challenges as opportunities, not threats. That's what makes a true fighter, mind, body, and heart working together. Leora smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She realized that the lessons of courage were more than physical. They were about awareness, thoughtfulness, and trust in herself. She had faced uncertainty, fear, and complexity, and she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the floating forest, Leora and Kale rested on a crystal platform overlooking the valley below. The shadowlings watched from a distance, curious but calm, a silent reminder of the challenges they had overcome. You've come far, Leora, Kale said quietly. Today, you faced real uncertainty and handled it with intelligence and courage. That's more than most ever achieve. Leora looked out over the valley, her heart full of determination. I still have a lot to learn, she said. But I feel ready, ready for what comes next, Kale nodded. And when it does, you'll meet it with strength and wisdom. Remember, courage grows with each challenge. The more you face, the more capable you become. That night, as the twin moons of Zarenth rose in the sky, Leora lay awake, reflecting on the day's events. She realized that her journey was no longer just about learning skills or gaining confidence. It was about discovering who she truly was and who she could become. The timid princess she had once been was still inside her, but now she had a new identity, someone capable of facing uncertainty, thinking clearly, and acting with courage. And deep down, she sensed that even greater challenges awaited. The portal, the shadowlings, and the mysteries of Zarenth were only the beginning. But for the first time, Leora felt ready to meet the future, not with fear, but with determination, intelligence, and a heart full of courage. The trial of shadows had tested her, and she had passed. The princess was no longer just meek. She was growing into a fighter, guided by her mind, her instincts, and the quiet wisdom of her human companion. With Kale by her side, Leora knew that she could face anything the galaxy might hold. And as she drifted into sleep, the soft glow of the moons lighting her room, she dreamed not of fear, but of possibilities, adventures, discoveries, and the journey of becoming truly mighty. The sun rose over Zarenth in a blaze of gold and rose, illuminating the floating crystal, towers and casting long, sparkling shadows across the terraces. Leora stood at the edge of the palace balcony, her eyes scanning the city below. Something within her had shifted over the past weeks. She no longer felt timid or uncertain. Each step, each challenge, and each lesson from Kale had strengthened her mind and spirit. She could feel it in her heart, a quiet but powerful confidence that she was ready for what lay ahead. Kale arrived quietly, his presence calm and steady. "Good morning," he said. "Today, we face a test unlike any before. Are you ready?" Leora straightened, a smile touching her lips. "I've been waiting for this. I feel ready." Kale nodded, approving her resolve. "That's good. Today you lead. I will guide, but the choices are yours. Remember everything you've learned: observation, strategy, courage. Use them all." Their journey led them beyond the city walls to the Crystal Forest, a vast expanse of trees made entirely of translucent crystal, shimmering with the light of the twin suns. Energy hummed through the forest, making the leaves vibrate softly. This place was alive, and Leora could feel it as keenly as she felt her own heartbeat. At the center of the forest, a clearing opened before them. Platforms of floating crystal hovered above a swirling energy pit. Beyond it, the portal that had first brought the shadowlings flickered, more unstable than before. Kale turned to her. "This is your trial," he said. "You must guide the shadowlings back through the portal safely. But there's more than just physical movement here. You'll need to anticipate their actions, plan your path, and inspire them to cooperate. Your mind will be as important as your body." Leora's pulse quickened, but she drew a deep breath, centering herself. She had come so far, and she was no longer afraid. "I understand," she said. "Let's do this." The shadowlings emerged cautiously from the swirling portal, their glowing bodies flickering in rhythm with the unstable energy. They were more numerous than last time, and their movements were faster and more unpredictable. Leora studied them carefully, noticing patterns in their energy pulses, anticipating where they would move next. "Good," Kale said, his voice calm. "Now lead them, step by step." Leora moved forward with precision. Her legs carried her lightly across the floating platforms, her eyes scanning every movement. She signaled the shadowlings with subtle gestures and changes in energy, guiding them safely from one platform to another. She had learned to move with the rhythm of the world, blending her own energy with theirs. At first, the creatures hesitated, unsure of her commands, but Leora's calm and consistent guidance began to influence them. Slowly, they started following her path, their glowing bodies shimmering in sync with her movements. She felt a thrill of satisfaction. She was no longer following Kale's lead, she was leading the way. "Excellent," Kale said quietly. "You're commanding attention without force. That's real leadership." The challenge grew harder as the platforms shifted and the energy pit pulsed more violently. Leora had to think quickly, adapting to each change. She noticed how the shadowlings reacted to sudden movements, adjusting her strategy on the fly. One misstep could cause chaos, but she remained focused, trusting her instincts and her knowledge. At one point, a group of shadowlings began to veer toward the edge of the energy pit. Leora adjusted her position, guiding them gently back onto safe ground. She realized that leadership was not about control. It was about influence, patience, and understanding. By the time the last shadowling safely crossed the platforms and returned through the portal, Leora was glowing with pride. She had faced the most complex challenge yet and emerged not only successful but transformed. Kale approached her, a broad smile on his face. "You did it," he said. "You didn't just manage the shadowlings, you led them. That is the mark of a true fighter and a true leader." Leora looked down at her hands, still trembling slightly from exertion. I couldn't have done it without everything you taught me, she admitted. Kale shook his head gently. No, you did it yourself. I only showed you the way. All the strength, courage, and intelligence were inside you the whole time. That night, as they returned to the palace, Leora felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything she had ever known. She realized that her journey was not just about facing challenges, it was about discovering herself. She was no longer a meek princess afraid of her own shadow. She was growing into a fighter, someone who could think, act, and inspire others in the face of uncertainty. In the following days, Leora's transformation became evident to everyone in the palace. She moved with grace and confidence, spoke clearly and decisively, and engaged with the palace attendants and teachers with a newfound sense of purpose. They watched in awe as the timid princess they had once overlooked became a figure of inspiration. Kale continued to guide her, introducing more complex challenges. They practiced scenarios that required not only agility but also strategy, teamwork, and empathy. Leora learned to anticipate outcomes, communicate effectively, and adapt quickly to changing circumstances. Each success reinforced her confidence, and each challenge deepened her understanding of her own abilities. One afternoon, Kale led Leora to the edge of the Crystal Mountains. From this height, the entire city and surrounding forest stretched out below them, bathed in the golden light of the twin suns. "Look at this," Kale said. "All of this is your world. And soon, you'll realize that your influence can reach beyond the palace, beyond the city, even beyond this planet. You have the potential to lead, to inspire, and to protect. That's what makes a true fighter." Leora gazed out over the landscape, feeling a surge of determination. "I want to be ready for that," she said. "I want to be able to face any challenge and help others do the same." Kale smiled. "And you will, but remember, strength alone is not enough. Wisdom, compassion, and courage, these are what make you truly mighty." As the days passed, Leora practiced tirelessly. She trained her body to move with precision and agility, honed her mind to anticipate and solve problems, and nurtured her spirit to remain calm and confident in the face of uncertainty. Kale encouraged her to experiment, to test her limits, and to learn from every experience. Then came the day when a new challenge presented itself. A surge of energy erupted from the portal once more, larger and more intense than before. Shadowlings emerged, but this time they were more erratic and unpredictable. Leora felt a thrill of anticipation. This was the moment she had been preparing for, the true test of everything she had learned. She stepped forward with determination, her eyes focused, her mind alert. She guided the shadowlings with precision, adapting her strategy to their movements and the shifting platforms. Her actions were confident, deliberate, and full of insight. She moved with grace and strength, her energy blending seamlessly with the rhythm of the world around her. Kale watched silently, proud of her mastery. Leora's transformation was complete. She was no longer the timid princess who had feared every step. She was a fighter, intelligent, courageous, and capable of leading and inspiring others. As the last shadowling safely returned through the portal, Leora stood at the edge of the clearing, breathing deeply and feeling the energy of the world around her. She had faced her greatest challenge yet, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident than ever before. "You've done it," Kale said softly. "You've become more than you ever imagined. This is only the beginning, Leora. Your journey is far from over, but now you know what you are capable of." Leora smiled, feeling a sense of pride and joy. "I understand now," she said. "Being a fighter isn't just about strength. It's about courage, wisdom, and believing in yourself. And with that, anything is possible." That night, as the twin moons rose over Zarinth, Leora lay on her balcony, gazing at the stars. She felt a deep sense of connection to the world, to Kale, and to herself. She knew that greater challenges awaited, but she also knew that she was ready. She was no longer meek or uncertain. She was a fighter, a leader, and a symbol of courage for all who would follow her. The princess had emerged from her trials stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. And with Kale by her side, she felt prepared to face whatever the universe might bring, confident in her abilities, her heart full of courage, and her spirit shining brighter than the twin suns of Zarinth. Leora had finally discovered her true strength, and she knew that the best was yet to come. The morning sun rose over Zarinth, painting the sky in warm shades of gold and pink. The floating city sparkled as if the entire world had awakened with new energy. The citizens of Zarinth moved about with curiosity and anticipation, for today was unlike any other day. The timid princess who had once hesitated in the shadows was no more. Today, Princess Leora would be recognized for all she had become, a courageous leader, a strategic thinker, and a symbol of hope for the entire planet. Leora stood on the grand balcony of the palace, her eyes scanning the city below. The floating platforms, the glowing gardens, and the crystal towers all shimmered under the twin suns. She felt a mixture of pride and humility. The lessons she had learned from Kale, the challenges she had faced with the Shadowlings, and the countless hours of training had shaped her into someone she had once thought she could never become. Kale arrived quietly at her side. "Good morning, Leora," he said, his tone calm but filled with admiration. "Are you ready for today?" Leora smiled, a steady confidence in her eyes. "Yes, today we show Zarinth who I really am and what we can accomplish together." The citizens of Zarinth had gathered in the central plaza, their curious eyes fixed on the palace. Holographic displays floated above the square, showing Leora's accomplishments, her training sessions, and the challenges she had faced alongside Kale. For the first time, the people could see not only her courage but the growth of her spirit. King Vorin stepped forward, his expression proud. "Today," he began, his voice carrying across the plaza, "we recognize not only my daughter but a new era for Zarinth. A time when courage, wisdom, and unity will guide our planet into the future. Leora, you have grown beyond anyone's expectations. Through your perseverance, you have shown the true strength of the heart and mind combined." Leora stepped forward, her steps sure and graceful. She had learned the importance of presence, of projecting confidence even when nerves flickered inside. She raised her hand slightly, acknowledging the crowd, and spoke with clarity and warmth. "Citizens of Zarinth," she began, "these past months have been a journey of learning, growth, and discovery. I have faced challenges that once would have seemed impossible. I have learned to trust myself, to act with courage, and to see the world with new eyes. But I have also learned that strength is not only about what one can do alone. It is about inspiring and guiding others, about working together, and about believing in each other." The crowd listened in awe, their eyes reflecting admiration and hope. For the first time, they saw a leader who had grown not just from power but from wisdom and courage. Leora's words carried sincerity and clarity, touching the hearts of everyone present. Kale stood nearby, quietly observing, proud of how far she had come. He had known that the potential was always inside her, waiting to be discovered. But even he was impressed by the way Leora now carried herself, leading not with force, but with intelligence, empathy, and courage. As the ceremony continued, a message arrived from the portal at the edge of the crystal forest. The Shadowlings had gathered there again, their energy synchronized, and they seemed to respond to Leora's presence. The citizens of Zarinth watched in wonder as the creatures moved gracefully, almost ceremoniously, toward the palace. It was a silent acknowledgement of her leadership, a reminder that her courage had not only transformed her, but had also created harmony in the world around her. Leora turned toward the portal, her mind calm but focused. "They have come to honor us," she said quietly to Kale, "and to remind us that courage and kindness can change the world." Kale nodded. "Exactly. You have shown that strength is not just about action, it's about understanding and influence. and you've done it with grace." The Shadowlings approached the palace calmly, their glowing bodies casting beautiful, shifting lights across the plaza. Citizens watched with amazement, realizing that Leora had bridged the gap between species, between worlds, and between understanding and fear. Her actions had created harmony, not through power, but through insight and courage. After the celebration, Kale and Leora walked together through the palace gardens. The air was filled with the gentle hum of energy from the crystals, and the trees glowed softly in response to their presence. Leora felt a deep sense of connection, not only to Kale and the Shadowlings but to the planet itself. She realized that leadership was about more than guiding others. It was about understanding, nurturing, and inspiring a shared purpose. "Kale," she said thoughtfully, "I never imagined I could feel this way, confident, capable, and powerful in a way that matters." Kale smiled warmly. "You've always had the potential. You just needed the right guidance and the courage to face yourself. And now you're ready to take the next step, not just for yourself, but for all of Zarinth." The following weeks were filled with preparation for the future. Leora worked closely with King Vorin, Kale, and the Council of Elders to develop plans for the city, ensuring that every decision was made with wisdom, courage, and the well-being of all citizens in mind. She began mentoring younger Zarinthians, sharing her lessons in courage, strategy, and compassion. Her transformation inspired a new generation to believe in themselves and to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. Leora also took time to explore the wider world of Zarinth. She traveled with Kale to the floating valleys, crystal forests, and shimmering oceans, learning not just about leadership, but about the diversity and beauty of her planet. She discovered hidden energy currents, rare creatures, and natural wonders, gaining insight into how she could protect and nurture her world. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, Leora and Kale sat atop a crystal tower, gazing out at the horizon. The stars reflected in the calm waters below, and the gentle hum of energy filled the air. "I never thought I could feel so ready for the future," Leora said softly. "But now I see that courage, wisdom, and understanding can make anything possible." Kale nodded. "You've grown beyond anyone's expectations, Leora, and you've done it not by trying to be someone else, but by discovering who you really are. That's the most important lesson of all." Leora smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace and purpose. She realized that her journey was not just about herself. It was about inspiring others, building connections, and creating a world where courage and understanding guided every action. She had transformed from a timid princess into a confident leader, a fighter not of violence but of wisdom and compassion. The citizens of Zarinth celebrated her leadership with joy and admiration. Festivals filled the city with light, music, and laughter, honoring not just her achievements, but the new era she represented. The Shadowlings returned regularly, interacting peacefully with the people and serving as a reminder of the harmony that Leora's courage had brought to the world. King Vorin watched his daughter with pride. "She has become more than I ever imagined," he said quietly. "Not just a princess, but a true leader, a symbol of hope and a bridge between worlds." Leora stood among her people, feeling the weight and joy of responsibility. She had learned that true strength was not measured by power alone, but by the ability to inspire, guide, and act with courage, wisdom, and compassion. She knew that challenges would come again, but she also knew that she had the skills, the knowledge, and the heart to face them. With Kale by her side, she was ready to lead Zarinth into a bright and hopeful future. Together, they had discovered that humanity and courage, combined with wisdom and understanding, could achieve the extraordinary. And so a new era began for Zarinth, a time of unity, inspiration, and endless possibility. Princess Leora, once meek and uncertain, had emerged as a mighty fighter, not of battle but of courage, intelligence, and compassion. She stood as a beacon for all, showing that even the gentlest heart could become a source of strength, hope, and lasting change. As the stars shimmered above and the twin moons cast their gentle glow, Leora knew one truth above all. The journey of growth and courage never truly ends. But with wisdom, determination, and the support of friends like Kale, there was no limit to what one could achieve. Zarinth would thrive under her guidance, the Shadowlings would live in harmony, and the bond between worlds had been forever strengthened. Princess Leora had truly become the fighter she was always meant to be, strong, wise, and inspiring to all who followed her light. And thus, the galaxy watched as a new legend unfolded, a story of courage, growth, and the limitless potential of a single heart willing to rise above fear and doubt.